You're recording.
Great. Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Food Innovation in Northeast Ohio, a webinar hosted by the Center for Food Innovation. My name is Brett Joseph, and I'm the CFI's Chief Operating Officer. It's my pleasure to be serving as moderator for today's session. My multi-talented colleague, Madison Letitia, has agreed to serve as our chat box manager. Want to say hi, Madison?
Hello, everyone. Just leave your comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end of the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Madison. So we organized this six-part webinar series as an invitation to learn about the importance of our local food industry on the health and security of all our communities in Northeast Ohio, and as a conversation about what we need to do to grow our local food economy in a manner that yields abundance, health, and prosperity for ourselves and our region's future. We're excited to have you here for our third session in the series entitled, How Can We Increase Our Local Food Production? This webinar is co-hosted by the Center for Food Innovation and GLIDE, the Lorain County Community College's Economic Development Organization. This is a webinar, which means that only the panelists have open mics and video. Although we are meeting in a virtual platform, we can simulate the engaging experience of being in person by using the chat box. So I invite you to say hello by introducing yourself in the chat, as Madison just mentioned. At any time during the program, you can feel free to express yourself in chat with comments and questions. The panelists will answer questions at the end. And note, you can adjust your chat audience to panelists, from panelists to everyone if you want everyone to see the chat. Also, a note that both of the prior sessions are now available as a recording, which you can access via links posted on our website. That's at foodinnovationneo.org. At our first webinar presented on June 16th, we took up the question, why should Northeast Ohio become a leader in food innovation? We heard from leading agricultural experts, Casey Hoy from Ohio State University, and Hans Reinsch from Aimpoint Research, who provided an amazing backdrop of past and current trends and factors shaping agriculture in Ohio and in Northeast Ohio specifically, and set the stage to show why our region is ideally suited to provide more sustainable and local foods. Within this context, they invited us to view our agricultural sector through a whole systems lens, challenging us to see clearly how leadership and innovation across the full breadth of the food value chain promises to transform our major challenges into exciting opportunities. Whether our interests are in strategic investment, advanced technology, resource conservation, food security, climate adaptation, or any of the other major issues directly linked to our region's farm and food economy, the pathway forward is in view for those of us who are ready to lead. Building on these insights, we heard last week from a panel of leading food purchasers in Northeast Ohio who addressed the question, why do groceries, hospitals, restaurants, and others want more local food? We heard about the increasing demand for local foods that are being met with innovative programs led by our region's groceries, hospitals, restaurants, academic institutions, and others, as well as challenges that purchasers face in meeting this demand with locally sourced quality food on a year-round basis. As moderator for this third session, I am very happy to introduce our panel of innovative growers engaged in a diversity of production methods, ranging from enhanced traditional seasonal farming to the use of season extension, integrative, and controlled environment technologies. Our panelists are Larry Klco, Adele Flynn, and Tyler Gogolek. And in a moment, I will introduce each in turn. Today, building on our understanding that year-round demand currently exceeds our region's supply of fresh quality local food, we will explore the question, how can we increase local food production in our region? In other words, how can we, through collaboration, innovative design, entrepreneurship, and targeted community-oriented investment, capture more opportunities to sustainably produce more fresh, nutrient-rich, and diversified plant and animal-based food from farms and facilities located right here in Northeast Ohio? So, without further ado, let's have a conversation. I'll start with a brief introduction of each of our four speakers and with an invitation for each of you to tell us a little bit about yourselves your farm, and how your particular operation has developed over time. Let's start with Larry Klco, owner and producer of Rainbow Farms, located in North Madison, Ohio. Larry is a first-generation farmer with his wife, Tina. They started Rainbow Farms 39 years ago after purchasing an abused, overgrown 33-acre parcel and built it up to farming now 250 varieties of fruits and vegetables. Rainbow Farms includes a farm market open all year round, including a CSA program. And Larry, why don't you take it from here and tell us about your farm and how you got into it and what's happening currently with your operation.
Well, Brett, you said it all. But one correction: we have a Madison mailing, but we're North Perry, and anybody who lives out here would take offense to say I'm in North Madison. But we're very fortunate that we have been farming for 39 years. We started from nothing, and we've been blessed over the years to grow the operation to where we are today. We do 4 outdoor markets plus our markets at home here. It is year-round market. We have limited hours in the wintertime. It wasn't too long ago that we were done producing the end of October, and we didn't start back up until 1st of June with strawberries. But today we have greenhouses where we're producing through the wintertime, the greens, so lettuce, spinach, kale, some hydroponics, some just in bags of soil in the greenhouses. We grow tomatoes and cucumbers in the greenhouses. We've been picking tomatoes out of our greenhouse, large slicing tomatoes for over a month, cherry tomatoes for over a month, cucumbers probably 6 weeks. So it gives us a nice start ahead. It's costly. As Tyler had mentioned earlier, the heat bills were horrendous. Hopefully at the end we'll see a profit. But with all the expenses that were occurring with the fuel bills that we're all affecting, to keep the tractors rolling, keep the greenhouses warm, and even just a simple t-shirt bag that used to cost me 1 cent is now costing us almost 2 cents. So it's those. How can you pass that on, that increased expenses to the customer is pretty difficult. We do a little bit of price increase, and that's what we're trying to do. So my wife and I, again, step back. We grow over 200 different varieties of fruits and veggies, some traditional, some in greenhouses. We use high tunnels as often as possible. We use floating row covers out in the field for early crops, and even back in the fall. We're less than 3/4 mile from Lake Erie. So we have the Lake Erie protection in the fall where we can grow. Our frost date probably isn't until probably on the average mid-November. Sometimes we even go in December. So we're very fortunate, and it's always fun to go to market and have people accuse me of buying produce from somebody when it's all mine because we're sitting on the shores of Lake Erie. So it's that's a little bit about us. I have 4 grown children, 12 grandchildren. Grandchildren love coming to the farm to eat everything. They haven't started work. Some of them work a little bit, but the children, my grown children, all come out to help when we need. But my wife and I right now are the sole operators, and hoping that the next generation will step forward to help and to take over. So that's a little bit about us.
That's great, and that intergenerational transfer is so crucial. And it's just great to hear a true family operation. So look forward to hearing more, Larry, of your operation. Let me move on to Adele Flynn. Adele is owner of Flynn Farm, an award-winning local beef cattle operation in Wellington, Ohio. Adele is a full-time farmer along with her husband, Eric, and 3 children. They raise beef cattle and farm corn, soybeans, wheat, and cover crops approximately 1,100 acres in Wellington. Adele, you want to tell us a little bit more about how you got into it and what's currently happening at your farm?
Hi, Adele here. I live on the farm that I grew up on, and it was previously a dairy farm along with the crops. And my husband and I were out in South Dakota for 4 years. He always got into beef, or originally was into beef cattle. Sorry, I have a fly flying around and I kind of am having a what was that debate moment where the fly landed in there? Sorry. So if I wave my
It
hand,
happens on beef farms, right?
yes, the flies are terrible right now. I thought we were gonna go without them, but they showed up. Anyways, we brought the beef cattle back to Ohio. We had our first daughter out in South Dakota, moved back. We still had the dairy cows at that time. A few years later, we ended up selling the dairy cattle and kind of took over everything with the beef cattle. So we operate the grain side. We're co-owners with my uncle and dad and Gordon Farms, which is my maiden name. And then the beef cattle is Eric and my operation. We have out about 50 mama cows and sell show and breeding stock, and the rest we use for freezer beef. So we've also sold to Lorain County Community College and the butcher and the brewer in Cleveland. But
And I guess I misspoke. It's actually called Gordon Farm, like you said, your maiden name.
Flynn Cattle and Gordon Farms.
Okay. And with any of you, if you have any like website or Facebook page you want to mention, if anyone wanted to look you up, feel free to either put it in the chat or just mention it as we go along. Great. So I will then move along to our third panelist, Tyler Gogolek, owner and operator of Tyler's Farm, LLC in Oberlin, Ohio, a graduate of the Great Lakes Agricultural Technical Institute. Tyler currently grows hydroponic produce and garden mums. I saw on your website, Tyler, that in 2013 you won the top prize in the GrowLink Plant Company's Who Can Grow the Biggest Belgian Mum contest. And there's a pretty, I think the mums was larger than you. It seemed in the photo there. Anyway, Tyler, I invite you to go ahead and tell us how you got into it, and I'll ask you the same question, what's currently happening on the farm?
Yeah, well, my paternal grandfather was a farmer. He farmed about 100 acres with horses back in the day. When they got older, he bought a set of tractors, an old Farmall and a Cub, and I still have those today. In my lifetime, he was down to 12 acres, but he was a very diverse produce farmer. My dad kept the love up for me. And I think I was about 14 years old, the drought of 1988, when I said, I really love agriculture and farming, but I need to control the weather. So I directed my studies to greenhouse production. And my first love was growing flowers. But quickly realized that flowers weren't a necessity. Food was. In the advent of 2000, I had purchased my property in Oberlin, and I ended up eating over an acre of garden mums because everything shut down due to 9/11. So redirected, and it was, I believe, 2014. We received our loan, built our greenhouse. We have 6,000 square feet. We farm every day of the year. We hit, groceries, farmers markets, nursing homes, schools. We have a pretty diverse way of distributing our produce. In current needs right now, though, there are so many disruptions in the food chain industry of getting product here that we're in a need to add on. Fresh and local has become paramount lately because of the hiccups in the logistics. The people, they can't find to drive the trucks, etc. So controlled environment agriculture used to be something that people talked about. It is now becoming the way. And, I just happen to be in not even the infancy anymore, but in the very progressive growing stages of this industry. And, we always are looking to improve ourselves and produce more product for the local population. So, we grow lettuce and greens and, offer a really nice product As far as family, you know, my family helps out a lot. I have an 18-year-old going to college, so there goes a hand. And then my 9-year-old really wants to follow in daddy's footsteps, but not there yet. So, you know, those are some of the challenges we'll talk about later, but, you know, that's who we are. And you can reach us at tylersfarm.com. You can see my website, and then our contact information is on that website as well. I believe it lists every place that you can find our product as well.
All right, fantastic. And yes, that's a great segue in terms of speaking of needs. Actually, the first question, I'd like to maybe shift to just putting it out there in an open-ended way. You can answer in any turn. I'd like to hear from each of you, however, on each of these questions. The first question being, for us to turn to the topic of local, okay? We know from diverse local buyers of food, including those that we heard from last week, from the purchasers that think that they are very much interested, them along with their customers, they want to buy more locally produced food. So can you each tell us how you think about selling locally, what is important to you, and what is needed for your operation to do more? So that gets to the question of your needs as local producers. So two-part question. How do you think about local, the concept of local, why it's important, and what you need in your operation? Anyway.
I'll jump in on that. One of the most expensive things right now for us is, since we are a year-round producer, natural gas and electricity. I budget. I pay the same amount every month so that I don't get hit with heavy bills in the wintertime. But that budget has doubled. There wasn't even a 40% increase. It doubled. That's 100% increase. So it's making things a lot more difficult, as well as your fuel prices to get the product to where it needs to be. Of course, labor is an issue as well. We're not big enough yet that we're struggling in that department so much. But you know, in Ohio, agriculture is our largest industry. So during the summer, there is a lot of product available. However, a good case scenario is this summer. We're very dry. Yields may decrease in the produce department if people don't irrigate. And thus why I chose controlled environment agriculture, so we can at least make sure that everything is consistently available at any given time. Those are the biggest challenges, but to provide that consistency comes a very costly input to do so. And that is my largest problem to date.
I guess for me, from a local perspective, with beef, I'm getting some feedback there. I'm not sure. Are you guys hearing it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Anyways, it's great for me because I would love to sell all of my cattle locally. It's easier for us. We have the set prices based on the hanging weight at the butcher, and where if we're taking it to the sale barn, you know, that market can really fluctuate. The other thing is that our customers can come out to our farm and see how the cattle are being raised, how they're being taken care of. All of the cattle are born at our farm. So those genetics, we know they're good genetics for good marbling and taste and things like that. And I just am really thankful for this local foods movement. Now we just need to get the butcher shops to have enough appointments to fit all those in and get the cattle growing quicker so we have them ready.
And as I understand, I mean, with beef cattle, that's also a very water intensive type of farming. So in a dry year, both from the growing the grain on site with your 1,100 acres and the consumption by the cattle themselves, that could be a real hit, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. We have the water hook up into the house out to the barn, so I can always hear when the cattle are drinking. But during the summertime, they're almost exclusively out on grass, the cows are. And, that rain is definitely important to get the grass growing. We've kind of dried up on the crop side, so my husband's out replanting about 150 acres of beans now. So hopefully we get some rain tomorrow or in the next couple of days to help that along.
And it's interesting because we think of controlled environment agriculture and the opportunities for water conservation involved with that. Obviously, there's, as we look across the range of innovations that not all types of agriculture, particularly in the area of animal husbandry, can you have within a confined space, and yet with other forms of precision agriculture, you have possibilities. And I'll ask you in a moment about technological advances and how that may come into play. But on that question of local and what is needed in your operation, Larry, I can hear from you.
Well, look, the local movement's been fantastic, and I give some credit to the Food Channel, because they started showing people how to actually cook some of these crops and to prepare them, like a fall squash, which everybody would call a hard squash. When we first started, we grew acorns and butternuts, and people wouldn't even buy them. You had to give them away. Now, I'm growing 8 different types of fall squash, and they have their delicatas and the hubba hubbas and the acorn butternuts and honey nuts, and there's just so much out there. And a lot of that's been great promotion through the chefs that now we have access to all the time, and the internet, where you can pull up anything and find a recipe for. So that's been exciting. We grow to 4. We used to go to 10 markets a week, and it was just too much. So we've scaled it down to 4, what we feel are good markets. And it's every spring I don't know how many letters from different places wanting us to come to a market. And I think there needs to be an education on with a lot of those folks that, you're going to go to a market, you got to have enough people there to be successful. And some of these markets just don't work out. We've tried a few new ones, and the organizers don't understand our inputs. They don't understand what it takes to load a truck and get to market and be there all day and then get back and then do all the farm jobs that you have to do because you weren't at the home to do them. So, there's markets popping up kind of almost all around, and they're just, I don't think they're beneficial. I think we need to focus on good, strong markets, promoting those markets. And I know some growers that go all over the place, and I don't know how they're doing it because it's exhausting. So, we're focused on strong markets. People have been really good. They're getting more and more educated in product, in handling and using our products. I would say that there still needs to be more done on education of the big, always the discussion is, are you organic? Are you conventional? Are you GMO? Are you not? There's just so much, I would say, personal opinion, misinformation out there about both of those things. And so we try to communicate to the customers what we do, what we don't do. And, I think it's been beneficial. When folks taste a local product that's been grown and just picked hours before they get it, there's no comparison. But we have to charge more. And, we're not going to compete against the Marks and the Aldis in price. We can beat them in quality all the time. So I've harped on this for years, and anytime I talk, it's like educating that consumer of what it takes. And Tyler, you joked about it early on. People think it's nothing to grow some of this stuff. And look, I've got literally 4 irrigation pumps running right now as I sit here, because on our dry sand, I had cucumbers completely wilted down. They looked like the plant was dead in this 88-degree heat again. So we have to keep water coming in and keeping in plants growing. And it's critical. And just like, you know, Adele with the cattle, they don't get water, they ain't going to survive. So, you know, we have to have those inputs, and it's costing a lot. I mean, the 3 pumps I've got running, and one's electric and the 3 other are gas pumps. So you can imagine what that's costing. And how can we pass those cost increases onto the customer? We can't pass them all on. I think for the most part, people this year have been very understanding about increases because they're paying that big price at the gas tank. So I think they're willing to take some increases on our end. And so that's been good to see. But, you know, education of people is I think just critical of them understanding that a June bearing strawberry is not the same strawberry as a California and Florida, and what the heat does to June bearing strawberry. Of course, the flavor is so much better, but the duration, the length of that season can be cut in half with 90-degree days. So, you know, it's that whole education process that we try to send an extra person at a market so we can educate the people when they have the questions, whether it be organic, non-organic, you know, what variety, you know, how to prepare it. All of our salespeople, their job is to listen to myself, my wife, some of our other seasoned employees, and what we say, they to repeat it, because, you know, the same question of how do you prepare bok choy? How do you do this? How do you do that? They want that information, and we want to give that to them. So,
Yeah, Larry, if I can jump in on your education, it's paramount. When we're at the markets, we're there to earn a living as well, and sometimes it's hard to address all those questions. You know, one of the things that, like the meat industry, beef, it's what's for dinner, the commercials, educating everyone. You know, when we were younger, Larry, too, we knew that there were seasons when everything was available. With these mega grocery stores anymore, people are unaware of the seasonal availability locally of what's grown. And education is paramount. And I do know when COVID hit, all of our fellow meat producers at the markets ran out of meat real quick because everybody was storing up, and they were like, well, when can you get more? Well, in 12 months when the cow's ready. They don't understand that. And it's an education process that needs to be capitalized on more so that people understand why it's important to buy local and what the farmers do to produce that food for them. So I agree 100%. Education is key and paramount.
Well, that serve as a good segue to the next question I'd like to put out to all of you. Kind of zooming out to the system-wide perspective, and thinking in terms of growing our food capacity, which on the basis of research says that increasing the percentage of locally produced food in Northeast Ohio from the low single digits to around 20% or more would have economic and other benefits, including the growth in jobs and business opportunities, improvement in sustainability factors, along with aiding in access to more nutritious food in areas needing it. And here was talk about issues of food security, food equity. Can each of you give us your thoughts in terms of what is required in our region to add significantly more sustainable food production at the local level? Perhaps as an operation, in an operation like yours, adding new food types or even replicating producers like yourselves. How do we scale up or scale out?
Well, I guess one thing I was going to mention when you're talking about economic availability and getting it out to everyone, one of the struggles we have now in Ohio is that legally I can't sell individual pieces off of the farm. They have to buy quarter beef and go pick it up from the butcher. And when you're talking about a quarter that can cost $800 up front, you know, that's a cost that a lot of people can't handle. So making that food more available to the masses and buying individual pieces without having to jump over hurdles to get a commercial food license would make a huge difference.
Other thoughts on that? Tyler, Larry?
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I understand. There's a local producer around me. I've been educated on all of that the meat producers go through. You know, I see a lot of out there too. Well, this stuff really doesn't last long in the fridge. Well, due to the logistics, it took a long time to get here. And I think people would realize if you start flooding the stores with local produce, your shelf life's going to go up. The quality is going to go up. And that is part of our struggles, is to get our market big enough to where local is taking precedence over, you know, bringing it in from California or down in Florida. But obviously, when the weather dictates, it's wintertime here and cold, and they're growing year round as well. So, I mean, the quality speaks for itself, and that is the key of our structure, trying to get the market share basically out there without, you know, burying ourselves in debt trying to do so.
Yeah, quality and trust in the food. Food safety issues, nutritional value, being grown in local soils, and so forth. But the year-round aspect being a big limiting factor, and that's where the controlled environment agriculture perhaps comes in. Thoughts on that issue of how do we scale up, Larry?
That's a tough question. I mean, how do we scale up? We're trying to do everything we can to take those baby steps of scaling up, increasing production. We do it in the greenhouses, but it's very costly. But Tyler hit on a real true point, is that the thought process of people today, it goes back to the education again. The thought process of people today is that, I mean, I have people come in and asking for something that we stopped growing 3 months ago because it doesn't grow up here that time of year. But they can get it in the store, Well, why don't you have asparagus? It was done. It was done 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, but they're still getting asparagus from who knows where. So again, that education process of where the food is grown, when can we grow it here? When is it best? We've slowly grown in not just one specific area. Markets has grown a little bit. But, I just see a lot of people. It's convenient. It's convenient to go to the grocery store and buy everything you need, the bananas, the pineapples, everything else, and go home. And they're not focusing on quality like they should be. I mean, I've got some of my own kids that go to Aldi's and buy everything. And I've got it here at the farm because they said, Dad, you should sell that. I don't want to buy your product. They sell that and we'll just go to Aldi's. Well, but the quality's not that good. Now, I should probably not be bringing up actual stores' names, but they're out there. They sell cheap stuff. They have a year-round supply all the time, coming from anywhere and everywhere. So, I mean, it goes right back to the education again. What's the importance of local product, the nutritional value, how it helps the local economy, the shelf life, like Tyler was saying, all that's good. The high quality of the taste of beef that's grown right here locally. We have to really educate more and more on that. I hate to keep hitting that, but to me, I think that's it. When we expand in our markets, why do we expand? We expand to certain items because it's customer demand, because people are educated enough that they come to me and say, can you grow this here? And it's usually something I can. I mean, we didn't used to grow green cauliflower, but I had customers ask me for it. Now it's a pretty popular item. So the customer is kind of king. I mean, if they want something, we're going to try and grow it and see how it does. And I'll try it a year or two. And if it doesn't succeed, well, then we just say, look, we tried it, it won't work. So, but those folks are somewhat educated and they know the product. They want to use the product, and now they're looking for a grower that will grow it for them. So that's why we have so many different varieties that we're growing. When we first took purple cauliflower to Shaker Heights, which is an educated clientele, they read the food magazines. They probably know more how to cook things than any other markets we go to. And we took purple cauliflower and the people knew the variety name. I was I was shocked by it, you know, so that's what we need to get out more everywhere. And how do we do that? I'm not sure, but
Larry, if I'll jump in on that one too. I know when we are at the markets, there's a lot of food assistance, produce perks. The Cams market I do, they have the Buckeye dollars, and you know, the produce perks will match what you put in, I think up to $20. During COVID, they matched any amount. I think if local municipalities and the state would promote the farmers markets more and give out incentives to get people there, such as those produce dollars. Again, you know, put 20 bucks in, you get 20 bucks back. It'll get more people shopping local and more aware of what's out there. Again, that education process, but I think the state and local needs to jump in and help out. They have a great women and children, the WIC, and it shouldn't be just for I don't want to say the people who are in need of assistance, but it should be for everybody. There should be a perk out there too, to say, hey, you know, grocery stores, you've got everything that people need, but if you want the stuff that's in season and growing great and fresh and local, hey, here's an incentive to get you to that market and purchase that food to help out your local grower.
Now, Tyler, I've seen your produce, Tyler, at the grocery store locally. How did you get in there, and how do those sales compare to other outlets?
Well, Adele, I've got this, it was years ago when I first started selling mums. I think it was Smith's Orchard. I believe it was Mrs. Smith. I was a young guy. That's 27 years ago. She's like, open your mouth, get out there, start talking to people. And I've always taken that mentality. Whenever I go to a grocery store, I ask who's in charge. Can I speak to the produce manager, or hey, is the owner around? I introduce myself. I put a face to the product, you know, and I not only sell my product, but I sell myself through that. And it's not just a website that shows my product and here, are you interested? No, I do the old fashioned way of handshaking and introducing myself, getting my name out there. And then I follow up with the quality. And as long as you're consistent with quality and the numbers for them every week, and always have that product available, you still have to work at it, but it gets a little easier after that. But how did I get in? I opened my mouth and said, hi, my name's Tyler. This is what I have. I show you, and I always improve. Hey, we found a different packaging that makes it look better. Let's try that. And if the managers, you know, they'll try it, see if it looks good. You know, we spend a lot of money on barcoding and marketing on the labels, and it's people eat with their eyes. So you got to make it look appealing. And that's what I did. I got out there. I didn't sit back and wait for people to come. I went to them, and I've been working on it ever since. It's always something that I do.
So just building on that, because I'm kind of hearing a couple of things, certainly loud and clear, you know, the emphasis on consumer education, but also inputs and other limiting factors, control over the price and so forth. And I wanted to kind of move into just kind of thinking both at these two levels of scale. You know, what are the needs on the farm in terms of areas where innovation may be possible, and particularly, you know, ways to kind of better position the farm for what's happening system-wide and in the local markets, as well as if there's any other constraints that can be turned into opportunities at the system level, whether we're talking about regulatory policy hurdles and so forth. And in relation to that, I just want to kind of bring in this idea of, you know, what we've seen from experience in recent decades, that small scale growers operating in markets where your competition, as you've been saying quite clearly, is with the global food from nowhere, to coin a term, or to borrow a term. Carrying, it means for a small farmer, you're really carrying a lot on your shoulders. And we're seeing a growing consensus within the food and farming sector suggesting that a truly sustainable food economy simply cannot be built without more investment with the smaller scale farms. Yet policies oriented to maximizing production do not necessarily translate into production for more farmers and more farm livelihoods. So I guess this next question is twofold. One, are there other limiting factors that you see that really need to be addressed beyond the ones that you've mentioned? And do you know of any other producers, small scale producers similarly situated, that have recently stopped farming under these constraints? And if so, why? And how might that be avoided so that we can really support the growth of the industry and more small scale farmers for the local market? I know it's a long question, but it's kind of twofold. What are the limiting factors, and how can we get more farmers into the business?
How are you?
For me personally, this is Tyler again with Tyler's Farm. I lost feed. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, so capital. My biggest expense is overhead. In order to produce, for me, controlled environment agriculture, I need to provide the house for which it grows in and all the equipment therefore. Everything's an upfront cost. There isn't grow a little bit outside and then you can afford it. It's a very big expense to go into it. And even adding on, we would love to add on right now. But
excuse me, we're getting some background. I'm sorry, Tyler.
Sure did.
We're getting some background. Lisa, mute. I think it may be coming from the glide.
Yes, for most of them.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback. Could we get some mute? Thank you. I'm sorry, Tyler. Go on.
No, that's okay. I heard it too. It is. It's the capital. There's a lot of investors out there. How do we funnel them in to help out these local producers to move forward? I'm in a position to move forward. I would love to. I need someone out there that can direct funds towards me to make that happen. That's a challenge in itself, besides everyday growing. The capital to do so, because everything costs money to do it. Nothing is free, and you have to find a way. We can prove the numbers that if it was running, it would produce and be able to pay off that loan. But who's out there that's willing to put that money forth to help me do that? That's one of the biggest things, capital.
One thing that's out there that wouldn't probably help Tyler because he's not young and he's not beginning, but House Bill 95 was passed earlier this year that gives tax incentives to farmers who are looking to sell their farms, pass them down onto young beginning and small farmers. So for someone that's just getting started, if you have a farmer that's willing to sell you the land, that could be a huge benefit.
Okay, so I'm hearing capital, I'm hearing access to farmland, big issues, especially for beginning farmers. Other thoughts, Larry? What are some of the either on the farm or broader systemic issues that may affect the difference between other small farmers staying in business or coming into the business?
Well, capital, I agree with Tyler. It's tough. Several years ago, we had a farm a half a mile from us, a small farm with a farmhouse that we wanted to purchase mainly for my H-2A workers. We have 6 H-2A workers, and by law, I have to supply the housing. And I exhausted every avenue with every bank, including ones that represent farmers. They did not want to touch it. And I was very fortunate and blessed to find a farm locally that the agent was able to look what we had and look at our income and see that we we were a good loan to have, and we were able to purchase that. But it was a struggle. I mean, we were on, it was, the project was on life support. It was about to die. And so that was frustrating, because we've had some good years. We've been able to show growth, and we've got the profitability, and they still wouldn't give a loan. So that's tough. We worked through it. But I think something has been talked about, Tyler said a little bit about it, is labor. I mean, how do you get the work done? I mean, if you're talking about small farms, you're talking about a lot of handwork. We automate a little bit here and there, but still, if you're getting fresh produce, you're harvesting it by hand, and you're packaging it by hand, and it's a lot of labor involved with that. So back to the education process, there's so much, again, misinformation out there about our migrant labor population, about what they're getting paid, how they work, what kind of people they are, the system we have to go through. The H-2A system is a very cumbersome system, and it vets these guys very strictly. I mean, I have a man that had trouble last year, and he's still not up this year. And he corrected all of his problems, and he's still not up. And so we're waiting for him. He's down in Mexico. He doesn't even know if he'll get up here. But local people, last year there was a discussion of a large nursery going to put in a H-2A housing facility, and there was an uproar in the community, and all these lies and misinformation was sent out, and it went on Facebook, and it was just, and I was involved in that whole mess that there was, because most people in my community didn't know I had an H-2A house housing 6 men. The neighbors all did. There's never been any problems, but I had people point blank, accuse me of lying and cheating and hiding things, and they don't understand that if we didn't have migrant labor workers, none of us would be eating, flat out. And they need to understand that, whether it's going to the big stores or whether it's going to the small growers. Those big farms hire hundreds of people to harvest their product and to get it to the grocery stores. So there's just a lot of, again, misinformation about the migrant workers, how they work, and what it's all involved with, and what a grower goes through to get them up here. It's very costly. But we couldn't stay in business if we didn't have them. So that, to me, is one thing that, again, I know I'm harping on like crazy. It's education. What farmers have to go through, whether we're raising lettuce, all the veggies we do, whether it's local beef, all the problems you have to get it to the market in high quality, and why it costs more. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a lot more. But so people need to be educated on that.
Okay, well, we're getting, thank you, Larry. We're getting down to the wire here, and I do want to leave sufficient time. You spoke a little bit about, the issues and some of the concerns, that new farmers would face as well as existing farmers. At this point, if you have further thoughts, please bring them into your answers, but I want to go ahead and move to our Q&A session. And for that, I'd like to invite Madison to step in and let us know what questions are coming in on the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So our first question, I'm going to mash two of them together. I think they work really well. So the question here, are food hubs or co-ops effective ways to distribute product? And as you answer that, could you also define for everyone what food hubs and co-ops would mean in the distribution cycle?
I can't respond to that because I use neither, so I couldn't really give a good definition.
One of the problem with one of those problems, I would say, is that becomes a middleman, okay, a distributor, and distributors need to be able to finance their help in order to do that. So they're going to need a cut of your product, and as a local producer, our margins are extremely small due to the fact that we don't grow in such large numbers like these major farms in California and such. Speaking of produce, this is. And when you involve a middleman like that, it makes you work twice as hard to get it. Now, food hubs are great because they basically are a one-stop shop that are finding the customers for you. But then again, there's that cut. Now, a co-op is, I think, Adele, more for these grain farmers and such in order to help them increase their, when they have like bumper crops, to be able to get better pricing and such. I can't answer anything on co-ops. I'm unfamiliar, but the food hubs are generally they're a Cisco, they're a Premier Produce, in my view, and they still need to operate. It's still a business, and they still need to pay their bills, and because of it, they take a cut out of our share, and that's what hurts. And if we could find those avenues on our own a little better and get the people to us a little better, it would help out. But that's my views.
There are local things like Market Wagon is something that's kind of taken off more locally here. I haven't used it, but I know several farmers in the area who do take advantage of it. The one thing with that is you do keep the inventory on the farm. So you have the freezer space that you have to, keep the meat, and they do work out routes. I feel like the prices on there are a little bit higher than, if you were to go directly to the farm, but that's something that has worked well. I know there are beef co-ops. There's one in Southern Ohio. We just, like Tyler said, you can kind of keep the costs a little bit closer to home when you're selling it directly from home. And luckily, social media has really helped with promoting and selling. Our limit is getting the butcher dates and having the cattle ready.
Good. Thank you. Next question. How is specialty insurance work for farmers? Does it apply to any of you? Have you ever been able to get it? And if not generally, what does the insurance game look like for all of you?
You're just talking about general insurance over having everything covered.
Yeah, the initial question is about specialty insurance for farmers, but if that doesn't apply, just generally.
Well, it's not the easiest thing to find. I can tell you that. Not all insurance companies will touch it. I mean, we have to have liability. If someone comes on the farm, we have to have liability. If we go to farm markets, we have to have liability coverage. It's not cheap, and there's not a lot of companies out there. Our hands are kind of tied to one or two companies, and what they charge is what we pay. Nationwide used to be very, very helpful in that way, and I had to steer away from them. It wasn't working out. So there could be some help on that end to reduce that a little bit, but so far we haven't found it.
I have the insurance. I pay for it. Really, you get what you pay for. The more you want, the more you pay. Right now I have it, so if the building were to burn down, I have insurance to cover rebuilding it, plus what I would have received for those crops over that time. And if you want that insurance, you're paying handsomely for it, which I do, because if it did something happen, at least I'm getting paid for what I would have had while the building is being reconstructed to get me back in business. So there are specialty insurances out there, just very expensive.
And Larry, we have Nationwide and have really good luck with it. I know it's different with different what you're doing farming, but I don't know. A lot of people don't know that Nationwide was started by Ohio Farm Bureau and farmers back in the day. So I don't know what agent you went with, but or what they have for specialty crop insurance.
Yeah, no, I know their history, and we were with them many years. And they started changing things around with the produce farm and with pick your own, with people on the farm. So it just became where there wasn't an advantage.
Now, do you guys don't have anything like government supported for specialty produce, correct?
Well, there's some crop insurance. We don't take advantage of that. My crop insurance is prayer, and I pray a lot because you get dry weather. Hey, I always say, look, I'll take a hot, dry summer anytime because I can make it rain, but making it rain is costly. But you get a cool, wet summer, and then the disease just wipes things out. So, but it's a prayerful consideration every morning I get up because of that's my best insurance.
I think we have time for one more question here. Kind of thinking of this question for all of you. Have you worked collaboratively with other farmers, rather to like build capacity to meet distribution requirements or in any other way? Have you worked with other farms?
I think communication between other growers is good, and respect. I mean, we do some things that nobody else does, and I'll share some of the things we do, but don't come in and steal my customers. It's respect, and I sell to a lot of places where Tyler sells to, and if I see Tyler's lettuce there, I'm not going to compete against him. He does a great job. That's his customer. He went in there, he showed himself, he talked to him, and that's his customer, and I would like that respect from other people for us too. So. The growers need to work together. They need to talk. They need to know what's coming on, what's not coming on, and just to be, if nothing more than it's just a little moral support that we all need at times, because nobody understands what you're going through except another farmer.
And I'll say, when we lived in South Dakota, probably 95 of the people out there worked in agriculture. So coming back to Ohio, we knew what it was like before, but that's one of the reasons I'm on several boards. I'm on the Farm Bureau board, the chairwoman of the Center for Food Innovation, and Centerra Co-op board of directors. And just being around the other farms and talking about what we do for a living versus around our friends that don't do it, that camaraderie. And I would encourage any new farmer or anyone that wants that to join their local Farm Bureau. There's a lot of programs offered by the state. They have a Young Ag Professionals Conference every year. It's going to be in Kalahari this fall. So it's close, and just to get out and meet the other farmers from the state.
I do myself have a network of fellow growers that are in the same specialty that I am in. And it's a blessing because we're always calling each other, sharing either our woes or our successes and how did we do it. And, growing's a variable that changes daily. There's never a same day with the same outcome or the same input. And being able to have that, that network is huge. And yeah, we do utilize it all the time. And it helps us progress forward. And that's key. You're not in this to, you don't have a secret, but those who have the talent of growing, we share it because not everybody can grow and they understand that. And that's what's important is being able to communicate with each other. And there is a nice network out there.
All right. Well, that's a great note to end on. Cooperation, communication, collaboration between farmers and with all of us involved with local food. We're at the end of I do want to make a couple of closing announcements here. First of all, to thank Madison for your questioning, thank the panel for an excellent discussion. For those of you that have been participating today, I invite you to join us again next week when we will be featuring a conversation with Richard Munson, who is author of Tech to Table, 25 Innovators for Reimagining Food. It's a must-read book. I have a copy of it here with me, elucidating how landmark advances in computing, engineering, and medicine are driving solutions to the biggest problems created by industrialized food, and how these applied technologies are creating new startups, attracting capital and building markets with the potential to upend conventional agribusiness stranglehold on the food system today, as we've heard. somewhat in the perspectives from the farmers. Learn how these technologies are leading the way and what it could mean for Northeast Ohio. And as promised, we will be giving away a hardbound copy of Richard Munson's book by random selection to one of today's attendees, again, via a drawing at each of the remaining webinar sessions. Finally, I want to mention that there's a nonprofit, that the Nonprofit Center for Food Innovation was organized to facilitate collaboration across the diversity of stakeholders interested in growing our local food economy. Please, I urge you to check our website at foodinnovationneo.org. And we invite anyone who is interested to please join us and share your talents as we continue to build our organizational strength and capacity to serve. For those of you involved in sustainable agriculture education, please note that the annual national conference of the Sustainable Agriculture Educators Association, entitled Agricultural Crossroads, Social and Ecological Convergence in the Heartland, will be hosted right here in Ohio. This is a national conference at Ohio State and Central State University, July 21st through 24th. Extended early bird registration can be found at sustainableaged, all one word, mashed together, sustainableaged.org. So that does it for today. Everyone have a great 4th of July weekend. Stay safe and enjoy some fresh Northeast Ohio food with family and friends. Spread the word, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.